I always start when I talk to a crowd with three things that you need to know. First of all, it's nice winning all those awards. It's nice meeting the Dalai Lama and the Queen and the President. But the only thing of which I'm proud is after 30 years, I'm still a classroom teacher. That's what I do for a living. And there are two dangerous things I love to tell an audience because I like to live on the dangerous side. The first thing is, you shouldn't say this to a large crowd because I want you to be interested, but I have to tell you the truth. A young man mentioned that I won an Oprah Winfrey Award, and there's a very funny story about that because usually the person who stands up here tells you how wonderful they are and how brilliant they are, and that really isn't me. And to prove it to you, almost 10 years ago now, I was teaching math one day in my classroom, and a guy came in a three-piece suit, walked into my room, and we have about 1,000 visitors a year to my class. So for somebody to walk into my room is very normal. And I walked over and I said, "Hey, can I help you out, sir?" And he said, "No, Rafe, I'm not one of your teacher friends or principal friends. I'm a private investigator and I've been following you for the last month of your life," which scared the hell out of me. And I said, "What's going on here?" And he said, "Well, I work for Oprah Winfrey and she has been considering giving you an Angel Award, but you have to understand that people lie to Oprah. They scam her and they tell stories so they can sell books or make themselves look good. So when she's thinking of giving somebody an Angel Award, she's got to check you out." Now, I've done this for a long time, he said, and I've never talked to anybody that I've tailed. I just file a report, but I wanted to talk to you. And he said, it's kind of a good news, bad news thing. He said, the good news is you're about to win Oprah Winfrey's Use Your Life Award. You've got the most extraordinary group of children I've ever seen. It's ridiculous. No one could ever describe what you do unless they saw it. Your books don't tell the right story. No movie could be made. It's amazing. And he said, you absolutely deserve this award. That's the good news. The bad news, he said, I just wanted to tell you face to face. You are the most boring man I have ever followed in my life. He said, you don't do anything. He said, you go to a classroom, you teach for 12 hours a day, you go home to your wife and kids, you don't have a parking ticket, there are no scandals, you did well in school, you don't stop for a beer on the way home, you never go out, I've staked out your house. And he said, you're boring, man, you got to get a life. So I wanted to apologize to all of you for sticking around to spending an hour with the most boring man you'll ever meet. The other thing that I want to tell you, and this is the other dangerous part, I'm a real straight shooter. And I'm hoping today to give all of you some advice and ideas that you can bring back to your schools, because I know how hard you're all working, but sometimes my ideas might offend you. I promise you I'm not trying to offend anybody here when you talk to a large crowd. If I do offend any of you, please remember, Socrates was the best teacher who ever lived, and they killed him, you know? So if I don't push a few buttons, I'm probably not doing my job. Anyway, so I'm Rafe, and I teach at a school called Hobart Elementary School. Been there for 27 years now. Tell you a little bit about the place. Not an easy place to teach. The children don't speak English. A lot of family situations there. Incredible poverty. And here's the statistic that just kills me. Only 32% of the kids at my elementary school even finish high school. I mean, that is just ridiculous. And that either means that we've got the stupidest kids on the planet, or something in the system wasn't working. And everybody in this room knows the answer to that question. So when I got there over a quarter of a century ago, I struggled mightily and continue to struggle to try to find ways to break that cycle. And I will tell you honestly that many of my students do go on to attend outstanding universities, do amazing things with their lives, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that I do and hope that you'll think that some of them maybe you could use in your schools. That's why I'm here. But I don't have all the answers. It depresses me to listen to celebrity teachers or reformers who think they have all the answers. I sure don't. I fail all the time, and in talking about failure, I've always wanted to say this to a group of principals. I have a favor to ask of you. Would you please raise your hand if you have any teachers in your school who have been teaching less than 3 years? Could you give them a message for me? Because I talk to young teachers all the time, and here's my message to young teachers. There is a group of teachers in every school, And let's be honest, they're in every school. They usually hang out in the lunchroom or the parking lot. They hate teaching. They hate their principal. They hate their students. And actually, behind their back, they hate each other. But they're not comfortable being negative just with themselves. They find great young teachers and invite them into their little circle of misery. I am begging you to separate those young teachers from those teachers and make sure they hang out with the good teachers. In the same way that I tell my kids to hang out with the right kids, young teachers have to hang out with the right teachers, or they're never going to be developing into the kind of professionals we know they can be. So let's make sure that we stay with positive people. All of us in this room know how tough it is. All of us are missing sleep and looking at budgets and problems that are so horrific they are practically unsolvable. But to sit around and just whine about it all day, I don't know how that helps the students. So I want to show you how I help students. And I never hang around whining with anybody. When I hear people complaining about how horrible it all is, I just leave. I don't have time for that. When I came to Hobart, here's the first thing I figured out. And everybody get ready to get mad at me. I'm really sorry to say this. I don't really care about the test at the end of the year. I'm sorry, okay? My students do well on those tests. We prepare for them, as we all should. But from my point of view, the pendulum has swung so far into a crazy direction that principals and teachers are under siege, as though that little snapshot of a child is any indication whether he's going to be successful. We have to stand up and say that's not true. Now, of course I assess children. If I teach children how to multiply, of course I'm going to give them a multiplication test. I want to see if they understand the concept. But I also ask the children, what's really going to happen if you do badly? Nothing. It just means I'm going to show you again. That's all it means. If you do badly, your mother still loves you. I still love you. The sun is going to come up tomorrow. Relax. But I have seen students at my school vomiting on examination days out of the fear. We, as school leaders, have to put a stop to this craziness. What I'm interested in is what skills have I given the children that they're going to be using 10 years from now, 20 years from now, for the rest of their lives, not just to pass some test at the end of the year. And so, on the first day of class, I want to share with you what I teach the children. I tell the kids on the first day of class that most classrooms are based on fear. The kids are afraid of their teacher. They're often afraid of each other. They're afraid to ask questions. They're afraid of looking foolish. And by the way, a lot of teachers are afraid of the students. It's certainly true at my school. I tell the kids that my classroom is based on trust. On trust. I trust my students. I tell them, you're going to screw up in my classroom 50 different ways. You're going to spill paint, you're going to forget your homework, you're going to fail tests, you're going to break things. It's fixable. The one thing that cannot be fixed is a broken trust. Once you break trust, we'll still be friends, but you never get back what you once had. Never. And the kids really buy into this. So, on that first day, I ask the kids to examine their behavior. Because one of the big issues in school is, how do we get the kids to behave? And I've seen so many techniques, but most of them are based on the kids looking at the teacher, asking, have I done this right? And the kids are scared. Some of you know about the concept of slanting, which troubles me. Slanting is the acronym where they ask kids to sit up, listen, ask and answer questions. N stands for nod, which is really weird to me. And the T for tracking your teacher. But I don't sit like that in my life, and I wouldn't expect my students to. My students behave for a different reason, and my students behave incredibly well. People are stunned. I can take 60 kids on the road with only my wife and myself as chaperones, and these are 9 and 10-year-olds, and we never have a problem. And it's because on the first day of school, I teach them 6 levels from Lawrence Kohlberg, and here's how it works. I talk to the kids about level 1 thinking. Most kids in school will do their homework or listen to you because they're afraid that if they don't, they're going to get in trouble. But that's not why we're in school. We're not doing our math to avoid trouble. We're not learning how to write an essay to avoid trouble. That's a bizarre way to... I don't stop at a red light to avoid trouble. I don't want to hurt anybody. So let's throw level 1 thinking out the window. And then there's level 2 thinking, which is, I do things for a reward. Hey, kids, if you behave, we'll have a pizza party on Friday. Again, you're not doing your math to earn a reward. You're doing your math because mathematics is going to help you. You don't need a reward. A couple of years ago, I have a great principal, by the way, but he was very sad that our lunch area was just a disaster. So messy. And he had a school assembly and told the children, if you guys can keep your tables clean, on Fridays we'll have popsicles. And all of my class looked at each other and went, level 2, there it is, level 2. And on that Friday, when they had a clean table, they were offered popsicles. My students turned them down. There's nothing wrong with having ice cream with your kids, that's fun. But not for keeping your table clean. We keep our table clean because it's hygienic, not for a reward. Just yesterday, there was a charter school pitching their school in my classroom, nice people. And one of their kids stood up and said, for every book I read, I get $1. And my class almost fell on the floor laughing. Because in my class, reading the book is the reward. You don't need to be bribed to read. That's a very strange system in a classroom. So let's get rid of level 2 thinking. Then there's level 3 thinking, which is we do things to please people. You always see the kids looking at us. Hey, Rafe, look at my art project. What do you think? Did I do well? And I ask the kids, why are you asking me? It's your art project. It doesn't matter what I think of it. What do you think of it? Often, you've all seen this. Teachers take their kids to the museum. And as they walk in, what do the teachers say? Hey, kids, don't run around. Don't make me look bad. I tell the kids, if you're running around, I don't look bad. You look bad. I look fine. I just drove the van here. Leave me out of this. Stop looking to me. This is about your classroom. I've already finished school. Why in the world do you keep looking at me for approval? Did you tie your shoes this morning for me? Did you eat your breakfast for me? What a bizarre mindset to care about what I think about your life. What do you think about your life? And very popular is level 4 thinking. Level 4 thinking is we do things because it's the rule. We put 7,000 rules on the wall, and you have to do your math homework because Rule 62 says you have to. But again, I'm not an anarchist, but a lot of my favorite people in history broke the rules. Thomas Jefferson broke the rules. Dr. King broke the rules. I mean, Jesus really broke the rules, you know? And we honor these people. So again, I'm not against rules, but we don't do math because it's the rule. Now, if you can get your kids to level 5, fantastic. Level 5 is I do things because I'm considerate of other people. I'm quiet in a hotel room, not because it's a rule, not because I'm going to get in trouble, not because I want Rafe to approve of me. I'm quiet in a hotel room because I actually know there's people in the next room who might be trying to sleep. I don't use my cell phone in public because people find that annoying. I'm quiet in the theater because I'm aware that other people are trying to watch the movie. If you can get your kids to the 5th level, fantastic. And the highest level, level 6, is where I behave in a way because I have a personal code of behavior. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks, it's my code. And all through the year, through literature and film and real life, I show the children what level 6 thinking looks like. We call it the Atticus Finch level. But one of the things that's really funny is that I've had principals and teachers call me and they say, Rafe, I love the 6 levels. It's a great thing to teach children. But we've done it at my school for 2 weeks and the kids aren't at level 6 yet. Yes, I know. I'm the guy that wrote the book, There Are No Shortcuts. I'm just saying it's a good conversation starter. that you have throughout the year with your children, where you walk around and say, what behavior is that? What behavior is that? Where are you in this hierarchy? But it puts the onus of their behavior on them. And that's the thing that I hope you'll take back to your schools today. I don't even have a desk in my classroom. I normally stand in the back corner of the classroom. I say very little. It's their classroom. Normally when I speak, I bring students with me so you can meet them. Couldn't do that today, so I've brought you 3 clips. And I wanted to show you first just what it looks like inside room 56. And what I really hope you'll pay attention to is at the end of this clip, you're going to see former students who are in college now, because that's the real assessment. I tell the children, my wife did not check my test scores before she fell in love with me. Really. And yet we're teaching children that their whole life is the test. It's not. I want the children to internalize a set of values so powerful. Wait till you watch the children that you're going to see in the screen, and especially the former students, because that's the real test if we're successful. If any of you know this terrible statistic, I know we have many elementary school principals here. Do you know that if you took all of the freshmen in college in the United States right now, these are our most successful students. These are the kids who made it to college. Do you know that fewer than 25% will finish college? It's true. And these are our best students. So clearly we're not really giving them skills that will serve them for the rest of their lives. So let's take a look at what happens when kids base their whole experience on thinking about 6 levels of moral development. Can we run that clip from the Today Show, please? Thank you.
Graders in Los Angeles thrilled to be spending their summer in school because of a very special teacher. Our national correspondent, Jamie Gangel, has that story. Jamie, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. With almost 2,000 students, Hobart Elementary is one of the largest schools in the country, but also one of the most challenged. 92% live below the poverty line, and almost all of them speak English as a second language. But Hobart also has a secret weapon.
When the couple comes back, Polixenes chases them.
51-year-old Rafe Esquith teaches 5th grade like no one else.
Why is 49 a buzzword? There you go. Okay, very good. You got to think before you speak.
Dedicated and passionate, he starts class at 6 a.m.
A toast to the bride and groom, Jake announced, raising his glass of ginger ale.
Goes until 6 p.m.
15 points.
And there is no summer vacation.
Can you name one of the other 2 states that touch the Gulf of Mexico?
Why do you work so hard?
I saw kids who were 4 and 5 years behind grade level simply because they didn't speak English as their first language, or their parents couldn't afford private tutoring. It wasn't that they didn't have good parents, but they had poor parents. And I guess we all like justice. We like justice. And this is supposed to be a land of equal opportunity. So I decided somebody has to level the playing field.
To accomplish that, Rafe, as everyone calls him, created his own curriculum. Lesson 1, there are no shortcuts.
Now let's go over one more time the strategy.
Lesson 2, behavior must be exemplary.
You're a good sport, okay? The mission of our class is be nice, work hard. If you want to be good at algebra, you have to work at it. If you want to understand literature, you have to work at it. And that's why there are no shortcuts.
Lesson 3,
to be or not to be.
Shakespeare and rock and roll.
Nowhere land, sitting in is nowhere land.
Each year the students master a play and put it to music. Henry IV gets the Beatles. Why Shakespeare?
I like Shakespeare. My father read him to me when I was a little boy. And I think the music is the glue that holds our class together. I really do. It's just great fun. And children that study music do better in everything. They're learning about discipline and practice and taking risks. And those lessons carry on whether they're studying algebra or literature or geography.
That's your name, I hear.
Well, have you heard but something hard of hearing? They call me Catherine, that do talk of me.
The Hobart Shakespeareans have become so accomplished, they have performed around the world. After Professor Ian McKellen is a fan and benefactor.
You can't watch those little actors who know the words so well and their meaning so well without wanting to cry. Why do you cry? I think it's happiness, really, and a regret that not every child in the world could have a Rafe Esquith.
Now the president...
Offstage, the students are also models of success. Test results have soared, and it shows on a class trip to Washington, D.C.
They look at one thing, the law. And what is our law called?
Constitution.
The Constitution. They look at the law.
What's it been like being in Rafe's class this year?
It's been really fun because we do hard work, but then we have fun, so like time flies in the class. It's been worth it because Rafe, he gives us a lot of advice on life. He's always with us every step of the way. And when it's really hard for us, he always makes jokes, so it's not really that hard.
Are his jokes really good?
For most teachers, that would be more than enough, but Rafe Esquith is driven. On Saturdays, he tutors former students for the SATs.
Once you've gone through all the problems that you can do easily, go back and look at the pluses.
Then runs next
All right, boys
door
and girls.
to help others with math.
Boys and girls, algebra. Take away the library and walk up those steps.
And every year he finds a week to take a group on college tours.
Very difficult to get in here.
Oh, and yes, he does have a personal life. His wife, Barbara, is his co-conspirator.
The two of you have given up your lives.
No, we've enriched our lives. We haven't given up our lives. All these people think I'm so crazy. All these ideas were Barbara's idea. Barbara will say, you know, Rafe, I've got an idea, and that's when I start running for the hills, because her ideas are great, and I'm the guy who has to kill myself making them happen. There is a
And what
connection.
few people know is that
Sit
for
down here,
years,
let's talk
Rafe
about
has
that for a
paid for all these special ideas, trips, and programs out of his own pocket, sometimes working 3 extra jobs.
You've been teaching for how many years now?
This is my 24th year.
24 years. You have been named Teacher of the Year. You've gotten awards from presidents. You've been given an award by the Queen.
Yep, I'm a member of the British Empire.
May I ask how much money you make?
Yeah, I made $42,000 last year.
You could make more money. You could go to a different school.
Sure.
You could be a principal.
Sure.
By now. Why not?
You were in the room today. I have the greatest job in the world. There is no way I would ever leave that place.
But even Rafe realized he could use some help. So a few years ago, one of his former students, Matt Parlow, started a foundation while he was at Yale Law School.
And I remember calling him up and telling him, I said, you know, you saved me, now I'm going to save you.
It is a sentiment echoed by many former students.
Well, I really almost see him as a father figure in my life. He's putting his life on the side to, you know, make a difference in these kids' lives.
One word to describe him?
Hero.
Hero.
He is my hero.
Because?
For what he did for me, in helping me realize my potential, and instilling in me a love of learning.
For someone who is changing children's lives every day, Rafe modestly dismisses such praise. It appears this teacher needs his students as much as they need him.
What's the biggest compliment someone could pay you?
There's nothing. I'm just a regular teacher. I'm an ordinary teacher. There's no compliment to pay me. The compliment should be for those kids who voluntarily work so hard.
What's your goal for these kids?
My goal for these kids is to get skills from me that they are using 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I want them to be happy, and I want them to be doing something they love to do. That's why I'm a lucky man. I do something I love to do. You want to do that?
Rafe likes to joke that he's crazy. Matt, we could use a lot more crazy teachers just like him.
Hardest job in the world has to be being a 6th grade teacher in his school. How do you follow that act?
You can't, but he sticks with these kids. He through middle school, high school, right on.
Wonderful, wonderful story, Jamie. Thanks
So
very much.
here's an idea
We come back a live
that
performance
I would
of
like
an
you to take
inspirational
back.
song after your local news.
Settle down, settle down. Here's an idea of language that I think your teachers and you could use with students that I have found very effective. One of the reasons students act up in school, let's be honest, they're bored. And a lot of the stuff that our districts force us to feed them is boring. I really want to make my lessons with the children relevant. And I want to give you a bit of language that any of you can do. If you go to most children in school who are working in math or writing an essay and say, "Why are you doing this?" What do you think most kids will tell you? "I have to. The teacher told me to. I don't know why I'm doing this." All kinds of answers. I actually teach the children a different answer. If you went to one of the Hobart Shakespeareans doing math and said, "Why are you doing this?" the kid will look at you and say, "If I learn this skill, my life just got better. If I learn this skill, my life just got better." And every lesson I teach, every one, whether it's baseball or history or geography, I explain how the skill that I'm teaching them will be used not for a test, but how they will use it in their life. That's why my students work so hard, because they really believe that they are working for themselves, not for me. And here's an example of a relevant lesson. My class is known all around the world for its economy. And on the first day of school, and this is a great thing to teach children given the tough times we're in right now, I want the children to understand that rather than blame the government or Wall Street for our tough times, and they are of course partly to blame, we are to blame also. Because people don't know how to manage money. It's a fact. And I want my kids to know how to manage money. It will help them in their lives if they're good with money. So on the first day of school, all of my students have to apply for a job. We have bankers and ball monitors and recycling monitors and all kinds of jobs. They have to fill out forms and they get their jobs. They also get a ledger that I buy at Office Depot. Every kid has a ledger because at the end of the month, if they've done their job, they get a paycheck. I do not ever tell them to do their job. I tell them, my principal doesn't have to come to me and say, "Rafe, don't forget to teach. If your job is to sweep the floor every day, if your job is to recycle our bottles, that's your job. No one should have to tell you. If you do your job, you get a paycheck at the end of the month that you get to enter in your ledger." But the problem is, my students have to pay rent to sit at their desks. The closer they sit to the front of the room, the more rent they have to pay. It's a better neighborhood. Close to the front. Now, I'm so devious that I do not pay them enough money to be able to make their rent. For example, they might be sitting in a seat that costs $1,000 a month, and they're only making $700 a month. And the kids say, "Well, I won't be able to afford my seat. What am I going to do when I don't have enough money?" And I tell them, it's a lot like being an educator. It's like our lives. But I also tell them, don't worry about it because there's a bad side and a good side. If you're not able to make your rent, I'll have to evict you from your seat and you'll have to sit on the floor as a homeless person. But it never happens because the kids have dozens of opportunities to make extra money. If they join our school orchestra or chorus, do well in school, they get all kinds of bonus money. But I never pay for behavior. Good behavior in my classroom is expected. No one ever gets paid for being a good kid. You're supposed to be a good kid. Now, at the end of the month, if you have extra money, we have auctions where I sell classroom supplies, calculators, books, Barnes & Noble gift certificates, all kinds of cool things. But the really smart kids don't buy. They save their money. Because in our class, if you can save up triple your rent, you can buy your seat, call it a condominium, and never have to pay rent again to teach them the principle of ownership. But the really clever kids buy other children's seats and charge them rent every month. Of course, twice a year, we're in California, twice a year my students have to pay property taxes if they own seats, and in April they all do income taxes. This is relevant education. Their parents love it, and it's fair. We have a police force. If you don't do your homework, and I don't give a lot of homework, but if you don't do your homework, it's a $50 fine. You're not in trouble. Maybe the dog really did eat it. I'm not really worried about that. If you don't do it, whether you're a good kid, a kid in trouble, a tall kid, a short kid, it's $50. Kids find that to be fair. Kids don't mind a tough teacher. They despise an unfair one. The classroom economy makes everything equal and everything fair. Recently, I got a letter from a kid named Helen who was studying abroad. She was at the University of Washington and the University of Virginia. She was studying abroad in her junior year in college, and she wrote to me and she said, Rafe, it's so funny. All the kids studying abroad are wiring their mom and dad. Mom, Dad, send money, send money. I'm out of money, I'm in trouble. She said, Rafe, I don't have to wire my parents for money. I know how to handle money. I learned how to do that in the 5th grade. That's an assessment of teaching, not the test at the end of the year. So I strongly urge all of you to start thinking about using classroom economies, especially in these days, which will teach your children important skills that will help them for the rest of their lives. And since we're here with Scholastic, I'd like to talk to you for just a minute about the reading in my classroom. Again, please don't get mad at me, but one of the things I teach the children is that I don't know how this happened. Reading is not a subject. I don't understand how that happened. Reading is not something you do for an hour in the morning and then take a test. Reading, I teach them, is joyous. It's something that educated people do all the time, every day of their life, to connect them with the world. I tell them I can't even pee in the morning till I've read a newspaper. I have to read all the time. Unfortunately, because of the pressures on us, we are often giving the kids the most boring, god-awful books ever to read. And that's why our kids hate to read. So what I did in my class is I took all the books that have been banned and we read them. Because they're all the best books. We read John Steinbeck and George Orwell and Huck Finn. We read Malcolm X. We read Charles Dickens. We read To Kill a Mockingbird. We read Catcher in the Rye, always a favorite of my 5th graders. But here's the secret I'd like to share with you. The days of telling kids, this is a great book, go home and read it, or we've begun chapter 4, finish it at home, in my experience, those days are over. Because of the home situation and distractions, it's not going to happen, and I'll illustrate this with something I heard about last year. A terrific student of mine who was a 10th grader in a very good high school in Los Angeles told me this story, and you know where this is leading. He's in an honors English class, 10th grade, 40 students, and they were assigned to read To Kill a Mockingbird, my favorite book. Jason told me they were supposed to go home over the winter vacation, 2-week period, read it, and they were going to be tested when they came back. He took a survey of his class when the teacher wasn't around. You know how many students read the book? 2. And this is an honors English class. But they all passed the tests. Because you know what they all did, right? They got on their computers, they read their Spark Notes, they read their summaries. So according to the test, they're all doing well. But of course, they're not doing well. First of all, they're cheating. That's a whole other conference. But worse, they're cheating themselves out of the wonder of reading a great piece of literature. I read with my students every day for 90 minutes. When we read Huck Finn or Mark Twain, of course my 5th graders can't understand Mark Twain by themselves. That's why I get paid the big money. I read with them. Every word. I read, they read, we discuss, we argue. Sometimes we cry. But the only way I know how to get the kids excited about reading is I'm their role model. I'm the best reader they know. So I read with them every day, and I hope your teachers, even if you are stuck with, let's say, a basal reading series, start book clubs at lunchtime. Have a book club after school or before school where the kids are reading great works of literature. I have never seen a child read a basal reader and then run to the library to read more, ever. But I do read of Mice and Men with my class every year, and within a week, without any prompting from me, I see kids carrying around The Pearl and The Red Pony and Cannery Row because they ran to the library because they said, I've got to read more John Steinbeck. And people say, well, gee, Rafe's a great teacher. It has nothing to do with me. John Steinbeck's a great writer. I'm offering them a great product. If we want our kids to be great readers, we've got to put great books in front of them and read with them. If we do, I'd like to read you a letter of what can happen. And this is an extraordinary letter about what reading is supposed to be. I teach the kids that every great book is about them. We don't take a test on what color hat Huck Finn was wearing. We ask the kids, what does this story say to you? Where are you in this book? Now, I had a student named Rudy, and if any student should have failed, it's Rudy. This kid was dealt a terrible deck of cards in his life. He was one of 7 children. 4 of them were educably handicapped. Both of his parents were substance abuse victims, just in really bad cases of drug abuse. When Rudy was in the 4th grade, his parents had a knife fight in front of our school, rolling around in the cement trying to kill each other. They finally divorced, and it gets better. Each father and mother, they each remarried another drug abuser. By the time Rudy came to my class, he was living in 3 different apartments a week. Sometimes with his dad, sometimes with mom, sometimes with a neighbor who would take him in. He was in rags, he was filthy, and of course, incredibly disorganized. Today, Rudy is a senior at NYU. When Rudy was a sophomore, I heard from his friends that he was having money trouble. And of course, if anybody knows about NYU, great school, but not great financial aid. And New York is an expensive city when you're 19 years old trying to get through college. I heard Rudy was in trouble. I'm not a rich guy. I had about $300 in my checking account. I wrote the check, sent it to him at NYU, and Rudy sent the check back. And I want you to hear what he wrote to me. He's going to say some stuff about our relationship. Don't worry about that. Wait till you hear what he says about reading, because that's the point of this little story. Rudy said, Rafe, as far as the money goes, I cannot ask of you to give of yourself like that. I can do this on my own. I just need to work a little harder and cut down on my expenses. I would feel terrible knowing that energy that could be devoted to a kid started on the path you got me on would be wasted on me when I can manage just fine. I appreciate your willingness to help me. It reminds me, as if I could ever forget, that you're one of the greatest people I've ever had the honor to meet. But I'd much rather have the money you're offering me go to the class so that one day maybe some other kid will be in a position like mine. And while I'm on that subject, I have to tell you, I tell our story to anyone who will listen. Rafe, I honestly believe I would be dead right now if it wasn't for you. I was headed down a dark path where drug dealing didn't seem so bad, and the acceptance of a gang looked like the only way to be accepted. You saved me from that. And now I'm at a top university studying an art that I never would have tried had you not cast me in a play. You showed me a better life, a better way to live. When I tell people about the class and you, I have found myself comparing what you did to me to Plato's allegory of the cave. I knew only pain and disappointment and thought that was the way of the world until I met you. I thank God that I did and that I have you in my life. Well, first of all, I had to look up Plato's allegory of the cave because I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Okay. But the point is, this is why we read, not for a test at the end of the year. He was able to negotiate his life because of reading. So let's please read with our children with great passion, and show them that every great book is about them. Now, I also, and I know this is hard, trust me, my principal and I are good friends, and every year for Christmas, from me, he gets a giant bottle of Tylenol. So there is no way I would ever have the courage to do what you do. I admit it. No, not a chance. I get to laugh all day with a great group of kids. I don't deal with angry parents, crazy teachers, crazy kids. I don't want to do it. But I do think we should take some risks and sometimes step outside the rules. I want to tell you once when I did it, when I fell on my face, and then I want to tell you something really cool that happened with a risk. One of the funniest mistakes I ever made, and I love sharing this story because you got to take some chances, is that I used to get real sad on Monday mornings when the kids would come in and I would say, hey, what'd you guys do this weekend? And they would say, oh, we watched a video. I said, what did you watch? The answer was always, the slasher strikes again, Freddy kills everybody, Friday the 13th, part 10. And I would rant and rave and go, oh, kids, that's terrible that you're watching that. How can you watch that crap? Why would you do that? Like they're going to listen to me, you know? Like the kids are going to look up and go, thank you, Rafe. Thank you for pointing out the error of my ways. From now on, I will only view films of cinematic excellence. I will consult the American Film Institute's best 100 movies and start them right. Well, that's not going to happen. So out of desperation, I started a film club because I realized that our children who watch film don't even know what a good film is. If you're going to show them a film, here are the questions kids ask. Is it in black and white or color? Is it new or is it old? Is it long or is it short? Instead of, is it good or is it bad? And what makes a great film great? So I started a club where on Tuesdays, after school, the students and I watch great films together of every genre. And then on Fridays, children can check out films from our library, and each film comes with a set of written questions. So they're working on their English and writing skills, and instead of watching Friday the 13th, part 12, perhaps they're watching 12 Angry Men, or In the Heat of the Night, or great films like that. However, what I didn't understand in my early years is that families have different values. Now, my class was going to Philadelphia one year, and we were going to go to the Amish country. Hobart used to have sixth grade there, and I let a sixth grader named Pablo take home the Peter Weir film Witness with Harrison Ford because it takes place in the Amish country, and I thought, good idea. For those of you who don't know Witness, Harrison Ford plays a tough Philadelphia cop who finds out that there's a scandal within the police ranks of a whole drug deal going on. There are murders committed, and he hides out at an Amish farm where he falls in love with the beautiful Kelly McGillis. On Monday morning, at about 6:45 in the morning, Pablo's mother came in. I have never had a mother this angry with me ever in her life. I mean, my Spanish wasn't really good in those days, but I got the whole cussing and I understood most of it. It was just smoke coming out of her ears and screaming at me because I had let her son see the bad stuff. And I thought, geez, what the bad stuff? What's she talking about? The bad stuff. And then I rewatched the film. I understood early in the film when Harrison Ford, he's in love with Kelly McGillis, he accidentally walks in when she's showering and he sees her breasts. He does the right thing. They both make the moral decision. They do not belong together. They separate. But Mom was incensed about her son seeing breasts. Now, just a little side note. Earlier in that film, Danny Glover, who plays a bad drug guy, cuts a guy's throat in a bathroom. That was okay with Mom. Cutting throats okay, breasts not okay. But I had to learn, okay, I disagree, but this is his mother. And I've got to work with this family. I've got to understand the kind of films, you know. The funny thing about this whole thing, she would have screamed at me more. But it was coming up to 8 o'clock and she had to go home. And the reason she had to go home, absolutely true, Pablo's little sister, she believed, was possessed by the devil and a priest was coming to their house to perform an exorcism. And as she walked out the door, I so wanted to say, exorcism, have I got a film for you? But I didn't do that. But I wanted to do it. I'm glad you're laughing. We have to laugh at our mistakes. We have to. It's the only way we get through the day. The cool news is my film club is very popular now, and I've learned. There are kids who only take home G-rated Disney films. There are kids who are allowed to take PG films home. I have former students who are allowed to take R-rated films home. I've talked to their families. I had to learn that. But sometimes when you take risks, great things happen. I'm going to show you an amazing clip. Several years ago, a long time ago now, in fact, about 15 years ago, my phone rang, and I got a phone call from the Heritage Foundation. For those of you who don't know, the Heritage Foundation is a think tank in Washington, D.C., and I was very surprised that they were calling me because our politics are very different. They are extremely conservative, and I am not. I'm a teacher who has Malcolm X hanging on my wall, so we definitely have different points of view, but they said they really loved my class, and they wanted to know if my class ever did history recitations. And I said, no, we're starting to do some Shakespeare, but we don't do history. And they said, well, that's too bad, because if you did history recitations, we were going to invite your class to do a performance in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. And I said, oh, you said history recitations. Of course we do. We do them all the time. Didn't understand the question. Then I hung up the phone and said, what the hell have I gotten myself into? But it forced me to stop telling the children, open up your books, read chapter 20, and answer the questions in the back. It got my kids out of their chairs because we started researching every great speech from American history, from the right wing, from the left wing, to the center, from Clarence Darrow all the way to Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan. It was fantastic. And the kids put together these speeches that they were going to give in front of the Supreme Court. But here's the risk. I had no idea how this was going to come. And this is why we take risks. You're going to see a boy named Wayne. And I'm going to tell you, he's going to blow you away. He's 10. It was his job to recite a letter from the Civil War. Written, it was in the Ken Burns documentary, if you've ever seen the Civil War. It's called the Sullivan-Ballou letter. It was a Union soldier who wrote an incredible love letter to his wife right before the Battle of Bull Run. He was killed in the battle. She never got the letter. Wayne rehearses with me for 2 or 3 weeks. He was great. A very good reading. But on this day, in a room larger than this one, although you won't see it in the film, in front of the Supreme Court, you talk about pressure. And there's no one guiding this boy. There's no band leader going like this. I'm not there. It's just Wayne, his class, and the justices. Watch this kid. He recites the letter, and right in the middle of the letter, and this never happened in rehearsal, suddenly the language of what it is to be an American, what it is to sacrifice, what it is to lose loved ones, what it is to lose your life, hit this kid right between the eyes. Watch him. His breathing will change. His eyes will change. I had nothing to do with this. After you watch this, when people saw it that day and the whole place fell apart crying, people came up to me and said, my God, Rafe, you're a genius. I'm like, what are you talking about? I gave this kid a letter. I took a chance. I took a risk. And if we take risks, amazing things can happen. For those of you who like history or just like great kids, here's a little boy named Wayne in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. Can we run that clip, please?
A week before the Battle of Bull Run, Sullivan-Ballou, a major in the 2nd Rhode Island Volunteers, wrote home to his wife in Smithfield.
July 14, 1861, Washington, D.C. My dear Sarah, the indications are very strong that we shall move in a few days, perhaps tomorrow. Unless I shall not be able to write again, I feel impelled to write a few lines that may fall under your eye when I am no more. I have no misgivings about, or lack of confidence, in the cause in which I am engaged, and my courage does not halt or falter. I know how the American civilization now leans upon the triumph of the government, and how great a debt we owe to those who went before us through the blood and suffering of the Revolution. And I am willing, perfectly willing, to lay down all my joys in this life to help maintain that government, to pay that debt. My dear Sarah, my love for you is deathless. It seems to bind me with mighty cables that nothing but omnipotence can break. And yet, my love of country comes over me like a strong wind and bears me irresistibly with all those chains to the battlefield. And all the blissful moments I've enjoyed with you come crowding over me. And I feel deeply grateful to God and you that I've enjoyed them for so long, and how hard it is for me to give them up and burn to ashes the hopes of future years, when, God willing, we could have still lived and loved together, and have seen our boys grow up to honorable manhood around us. If I do not return, my dear Sarah, never forget how much I loved you. Though there my last breath escapes me on the battlefield, it shall whisper your name. Sarah, forgive the many pains that I have caused you. How thoughtless, how foolish I have sometimes been. But oh Sarah, if the dead can come back to this earth and flit unseen around those they love, I shall always be with you. The brightest day and the darkest night. Always, always. And when the soft breeze fans your cheek, shall be my breath, the cool air, your throbbing temple, shall be my spirit passing by. Sarah, do not mourn me dead. Think I'm gone, and wait for me. For we shall meet again.
Sullivan Ballou was killed a week later at the First Battle of Bull Run.
There was not a dry eye in the entire Supreme Court. People just fell apart, including the justices. I didn't plan this, but I took a chance. Let's all take one chance a year. Try something new. Even if someone will ridicule you for it or look down at you for it, we have to try new things. We want our kids to take chances. And the last thing that I'd like to speak to you about today that's very important is for all of us to be ourselves. I've watched, my principal's named Jonathan, he's just a hell of a guy, and he looks at the district and what they're asking him to do every day. And he is jumping through so many hoops that he has stopped being Jonathan. I knew Jonathan when he was a teacher. He was a colleague of mine. We were really good friends. And there are times I have to slap him and go, hey, remember who you are? Jonathan, the guy you know? And he's so overwhelmed with the craziness of his job. People have asked me, how do you keep going, Rafe? Why don't you burn out? And here's why. Because I found one thing that I love to do that is not part of the curriculum, and I've made it part of the curriculum. I never throw out any of the curriculum. I do all the things my district asks me to do. We take all the tests, I go to every meeting, but I love Shakespeare. Doesn't mean you have to love Shakespeare. And I love rock and roll. And about a quarter of a century ago, I came up with this idea with the help of a great British actor named Ian McKellen to put together the Hobart Shakespeareans. And now, every year, after, and I'm not exaggerating, 50,000 hours of combined work with the students and me, every year at the end of the year, they put on an unabridged production of Shakespeare in our classroom in t-shirts and jeans. It's so good, people cross oceans to be in the room. We turn away thousands of people. It's amazing. We have people from Australia and China and Japan and France and South Africa. Everybody wants to see these kids. The Royal Shakespeare Company calls them the ultimate example of how and why Shakespeare should be performed. What I would like to ask all of you, I know a great principal in my school district who's a runner. He loves running marathons. So he started a marathon club at his school. He does it. And he runs with the kids every day. And it keeps him excited about school when he goes to those horrible meetings and has to fire a librarian or tell his school nurse, sorry, we can't have you every day, there's no money. And it's just so painful for this guy. He knows that at least for part of his day, he's going to be working with kids doing something he loves to do. And just last week, he and a bunch of his kids ran the LA Marathon, and they did it. And it keeps him passionate. I think if you're a great cook, tell your teachers, cook with your kids for part of the day. Have a quilting club. Do something you love to do. It will bring you closer with the students. I'm very excited about telling you about a clip that you're about to see. It's very hard to describe the Hobart Shakespeareans. But basically, I want you to understand that 40 to 50 kids spend a year after school, not just from my classroom, but all 4th and 5th graders are invited. They all learn to play music. I'm a math guy, but I learned early on as a teacher, when children play music, they do better in everything. I am begging all of you, despite budget cuts, make sure music is an essential part of your school. If you don't have a music teacher, because I had to learn, you're going to see kids playing cello, sitar, all kinds of wild instruments. I had to learn all of them. But here's what I've learned. In an era when we say kids can't pay attention, music is the great focuser. They have to pay attention when they play music because not only are they listening to their own playing, they must listen to others. As you watch what I'm going to show you, you don't have to like Shakespeare. Don't worry about Shakespeare. Look at these kids concentrate. Look at their unbelievable command of language. These kids are 9 and 10 and they do not speak English as their first language. Listen to their beautiful singing. Nothing in this, these clips you're going to see has been dubbed. There's no trickery. It's just filming in our classroom. Okay, and you will be astonished by how good they are. And all kinds of music. And we talked about fear and trust. Watch for this clip. The kids, there is one scene where a jealous wife chases who she believes is her cheating husband, and he takes his clothes off down to his underwear in the classroom. Most fifth graders couldn't do that in front of boys and girls and parents. But the Hobart Shakespeareans can because they know they're just performing a play. When trust is the foundation of your classroom, anything is possible. When you watch these kids, if you like Shakespeare, you're going to love it. But if you're not into Shakespeare, ask yourself this question. Watch these kids and say, where will these kids be in 10 years? Watch their language. How well will they apply for a job? Watch their confidence and their teamwork. How well will they work with other people? And one more thing, just watch how much friggin' fun they're having. School is supposed to be fun, and we've lost that. Okay, I once was, somebody came in my classroom and critiqued me, and they said, well, it's very nice, Rafe, but there's an awful lot of laughing going on. And I went, yeah, I would hope. They're 10. It's not an intensive care ward, it's a classroom. They're supposed to be laughing. So let's remember, sometimes we're all so beaten down, we forget to just have fun. I was really excited when I was in the green room. I was listening to the speeches. You guys were laughing and having fun. Let's remember to bring that fun back to our schools. So I'm excited because I've never seen this clip before. It was put together for me by a couple of students. So we're going to look at, I know you're going to see kids playing cello, flute, sitar. You're going to see amazing bits of scenes from Shakespeare. But most importantly, you're going to see why I've been able to keep going for 30 years. Because when I have to deal with a horrible professional development meeting that is irrelevant, when I have to give the kids tests which are not helping them, I know that at 2:45, I'm teaching Shakespeare and rock and roll. And it's a good day. So let's take a look at the Hobart Shakespeareans. You're the first audience to see this. Can we run this last clip?
I am a Jew! Hath the Jew eyes? Hath the Jew hands? Organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? Fed with the same food, hurt by the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same summer and winter as a Christian is. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge?
this is Ian McKellen, okay? He's a really nice guy, okay? And these are the newest Shakespeareans.
Hello. The best thing about the Hobart Shakespeareans is that they know what they're saying, you know?
We work very hard.
I know you work hard, and you understand every single word, and that couldn't be said of all actors who do Shakespeare. Really good.
Die!
a good memory for you, but it's one of many great memories to come. The readiness is all. So I'd like to share with you a little secret behind the scenes. You like that kid playing the piano? I didn't teach him. Hang on. And I can't write that piano music. I'm not that good. I can't do the Doors. Not that well. That music was written and he was trained by one of my former students who's a doctor of music from Northwestern. Most of the music that you see is written and scored by former students. And that is one important thought I'd like to leave you with today. I have an army of former students who come back to my classroom all the time, every day. At about 2:30 or 3 o'clock, the door opens, some middle school students coming home, high school students stopping by. It's been spring break, a lot of the college students are coming by. We have a vision for what our kids can be, but they often don't have that vision because the neighborhood is bad or their family situation is bad. If you watch a cooking channel, they say, hey, we're making chicken today, and they show you the finished product, and then they show you how to make it. But our kids need to see the finished product. My former students are a far better motivator for the kids than I am. They listen to me, but they really listen to them. So as principals, I hope you'll encourage all your teachers, write those birthday cards with email former students. Come back and talk to your kids. All the time. It is the glue that holds my class together. We have a foundation set up by a former student. If you go to the incredible Hobart Shakespearean website, I don't know how to make a website. 2 of my former students who are engineers from Berkeley put that website together and keep it going. My former students do my taxes for me because they're accountants. So I really think that that is an untapped source of incredible potential if you'll stay in touch with your former students. And in closing, I'd like to ask this difficult question, and you look to be a very honest group of principals. How many of you have days where you think, I'm not making a difference, I'm failing? May I respectfully say to you, you don't know that. You don't know that. Many times, because of the work you're doing every day, some kid is going to be successful 20 years from now, and you'll never hear about it. That is both the beauty and the sadness of what we do. But if you're going to your school every day, trying to stay positive, supporting your teachers, and working with those kids, you don't know that, and I'll prove it to you. Many years ago, and I read this to myself once a week to keep me motivated. Many years ago, I was in New York City with a group of 41 children. My wife was with me, but she got sick. And we were going to go to the Empire State Building, so she stayed at the hotel, and I took 41 kids to the Empire State Building. If you've ever been there, you wait in a long line that snakes through this cavernous lobby, and they try and get your money when you're in line. There's shops and things you can do, and one of the things you can do is you can go on a virtual reality ride, where you go into a movie theater, and the theater shakes, and you take a wild ride through New York City. And I asked the kids if they wanted to go on. And they said, yeah, we would. And I said, okay, but you got to wait in line over there, kids, by that wall. There's one of those red velvet restraining ropes, and I have to go to a kiosk over there to buy tickets. So I lined up the kids, and I went over there, and I'm keeping an eye on them, and a young guy was there. It was his job to let the rope down and tear your ticket. He was about 24, 25, very New York. And he walked over to the kids who were standing very quietly, the way you're sitting, and I'm watching from across the hall. And he went, hey, are you guys having fun? And they all went, uh-huh. Well, you sure are quiet. Uh-huh. Well, what are you so quiet about? And one of the kids said, well, we're always quiet in public places. It's a level 6 thing. And I'm standing over the side, just loving life. And he pointed to a kid who I didn't think I made a difference for. It's a kid that you saw today in the Supreme Court piece. She was playing the violin. Her name was Janet, and he said, hey, what do you do for fun? And she said, I play the violin. And he said, oh, that's not fun. What do you do for fun? And she said, that is fun. I love playing the violin. I'm going to be a musician when I grow up. And he said, what's your favorite video game? And she said, I don't play them. And he said, all kids play video games. She said, I don't. I play the violin. He said, let me give you some advice. When you're young, don't listen to your parents or teachers. You should run around, raise a lot of hell, and have fun. All right! And I'm watching all this, and I don't say a word. Today, I'm asked to speak to you, but in real life, I'm a very quiet fellow. I'm off in the corner somewhere, just a wallflower. But I'm watching this, and I didn't say anything. We got into the theater. We went to the virtual reality ride. It was really fun. And when the ride was over, I pulled the kids aside and I said, you guys, I feel kind of bad. I know I have high expectations for you, but I hope you don't think I'm trying to take away your fun. It's just, and before I could finish, a 10-year-old kid named Catherine said, Rafe, that guy takes tickets in line for a tourist attraction. She said, do you think we're going to listen to him? And I said, Catherine, you can now leave my class because I have nothing else to teach you. But Janet, the little violinist, the one who I was sure I had not made a difference for. At the end of the year, Janet and I never talked during the year. She never came up to me and said, I love this class. I love you as a teacher, Rafe. I didn't get a card at the end of the year. We did not hold hands and sing Kumbaya. She was just a wonderful little girl in my classroom. I did the best I could. But years later, she applied to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame gets about 20,000 applications a year, and their essays. Janet didn't tell me about this, but Notre Dame contacted me and said, you have to see what this kid wrote. And I think this is the best way for us to end our conference. Janet was supposed to write about a childhood experience. And when this starts, it's a little bit boring for a paragraph or two. Please stay with me, because I really think you're going to want to hear what Janet had to say about what school means to a child and what the work we're all doing. She wrote, my heart begins to beat as the lights start to dim and the chattering of students slowly dies down from scattered mumblings to silence. The tiny room is flooded with lights, and I look out into the audience. An 11-year-old boy walks out onto the stage to the opening lines of his character, Benedict. My heart starts to beat again quite rapidly as my turn approaches. The crowd laughs, and I take it as my cue to step onto the stage. It's 6 p.m., it's June 15th, 1998, and I've just started my 12th and final performance of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. I was first introduced to Shakespeare when I was 9 years old by a teacher, Rafe Esquith, who was famously known at my elementary school for directing a Shakespeare play every year. Not wanting to turn down an opportunity to be in one of his famous plays, I immediately said yes when he asked me. Now, I put famous in quotes because at my elementary school, being in the Shakespeare play was as if I had been asked to join a cool and exclusive group of the school. The following year, I was in The Winter's Tale. These plays were performed in our tiny little classroom, room 56, and on that night of the final performance, I could only think to wish how I could stop time. I wish I could put all the feelings that evening into a jar and carry it around with me wherever I go, because the emotions in room 56 that night were full of delight, passion, and energy. Putting together those plays every year not only taught me about Shakespeare, but I learned about teamwork and language and humility, and that when one of my classmates was on stage, it was his turn to be in the spotlight, not mine. Who would have thought one could learn so much just by being in a play? I learned my most valuable lessons during those 2 years in room 56, and I treasure all the experiences I had in that tiny little classroom. Hobart Elementary School is located in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, and as I look back on my elementary years, I think about the horrible environment I grew up in. There were kids who didn't know how to speak English, even teachers who didn't know how to speak English. A rape or child abuse case occurred at least once a week at school, and policemen were seen frequently on campus. Yet during the 5th grade, When I walked into room 56, everything changed. The world outside stopped existing and disappeared. Instead of gang fights and beggars, my life turned into guitar lessons and history productions and Shakespearean characters. My fears and horrors were replaced by happiness and laughter. It became my second home, and my classmates, my second family. I did most of my growing up in room 56, and it shaped and molded me into the person I've become now. No matter what else was happening anywhere in the world, all my troubles could be fixed in this safe haven, and I constantly retreated to it when I had family trouble. And even today, if I am looking for a place where there is only love and joy, and where anger and hatred do not exist, I will still retreat to room 56. I think that's the mission for all of us, to go back to our schools and create safe havens where our children can flourish and become the extraordinary children we know they can become. And I'm so grateful for all of you for making this a safe haven for me today. Thank you so much.